This is going to be a video on the Pfister single handle bathtub or shower faucet, which you are looking at right now. They call it a single handle, obviously, because there is a single handle. Most of the problems that you'll have with these, tight turning, it doesn't turn, or it's frozen, or it's difficult to turn, or there is leaking. Normally that is caused by a part that's called the pressure balance cartridge, or the cartridge. And I'm going to show you, I just got one of them. So I'm going to talk for a couple minutes before I show you how to take care of this thing. I'm trying to make the lighting good so you can see what's going on here. So that notch over there down on the, this is the bottom part. That's how you're going to know that you're dealing with the bottom. And this is called the pressure balance cartridge. You can see on the back, that's where the water is going to go in. And then by turning this thing, it's going to, I guess, let your water go out somehow. Who knows how. So the handle goes on here. And this little black piece over there, that's for temperature control. Now, let me give you some information that might be helpful for you. When I called up Pfister, this faucet is in my mom's house, so I didn't buy it. When I called the Pfister, I gave them a model number. I'm going to show you where I found the model number. It's behind the handle that's in there when I took it apart. I gave them the model number, and they told me that wasn't their model, but it was their faucet. It was just a third-party model number. And I also gave them the expiration date, or the install date that was on the label. What they told me, first off, if it wasn't their model, but they would take care of me. Then they also told me that it was out of warranty because of the date, but they would take care of me, which I can appreciate. That's really nice. This is probably a 20-year-old faucet at least, so they stand behind their product. And then when she was talking to me, she asked me what the problem was, and I said, well, my mom has a hard time turning the faucet. And she said, oh, this isn't your faucet? You're not the original buyer? And I said, my mom bought the faucet. And she said, okay, one-time courtesy, we will take care of you, which I appreciate they took care of me, but they really didn't have to say, we're not going to take care of you because it's your mother's faucet. It's kind of ridiculous. So give them as little info as possible. Don't just let them know you bought the faucet or it's your own original faucet. If you don't know what the model number is, they're going to ask you questions. You can see the white handle on there. They asked me what color the handle was. At the very tip, there is a little cap I'm going to show you where there's a screw behind there. They asked me if that cap was silver or white or chrome or white. They will ask you what type of handle is on there, what the color of this is, if it's white or black or gray. And by getting that information, they can look up on their system and tell you what part you're going to need to replace. And if you don't want to do it that way, you can also take photographs of the faucet and the handles and email it to them, and then they will tell you. Now, the nice thing is this is a $27 part on their website. I think you can get it much cheaper at a plumbing store or HD. I think something like $18. They sent me the whole unit. I don't know if that's normally how it's sold. They also have cartridges where it comes in 2 or 3 different parts, so you might not have to replace a whole unit like this. What's going to happen when I open up the faucet is I'm going to be taking off the I'll take off the cap at the tip. I will reach in with a screwdriver, undo the screw, I'll take off the handle, I'll unscrew this back piece over here, then hopefully I'll be able to take off that escutcheon, which you can see needs some caulking around it. And then I should be able to see this part where I will take off the 4 screws that are holding this in place with a metal cover. And then I should be able to pull this out, put the new one in. What you need to do on a lot of these faucets, they have, some of the faucets, there is a shutoff right behind that escutcheon plate over here. You're better off shutting the water off to the place. If it's an apartment or a house, whatever, you're better off shutting off the water, because if you try to turn off the water with that little screw valve behind and it starts leaking or you break it, then you really are going to have a big problem. So turn off the water and let me show you what the problem is now. The problem is, you can see the amount of pressure. Right. I think it turns to the side. It's working a lot better. The handle's a little wobbly, which is probably part of the design, but it's a tight fit, and so I'm going to be pulling off this cap over here on the end. That's the silver cap I was telling you about. And then I'm going to go in there and I'm going to remove We'll remove the screw over here. There's a screw inside there. And then I'm going to go pull off the handle, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn off the power to this faucet, shut off the water, and then I'll be back. The water is off. Now you might want to put a cover or some tape over the drain in case your screw falls down. You never want to lose your screw. You can see right now that I'm removing there's a Phillips screw inside here that holds on the handle. You want to take that off. That's the first step. If you like my videos, please do a thumbs up, a subscribe, a like. Help me out if you can. Plumbing fees are about $100, $150 for a service call, so if this is going to save you some money, maybe you want to help me out. Go to my channel page, click on support, and put something in there if you want. You get this ring over here. You're going to put your hand around it, and you're going to turn clockwise. That means to the left. If you don't know how to use a clock, you're going to turn to the left and unscrew it. You might want to use a little nail polish or tape or something to mark the position of some of the items that are in here so that you know which way they go back correctly. So you're going to remove this piece. A lot of threads on there. It's very finely threaded. And you can see that looks just like the other part that I showed you. It's got the white piece. You can see the knob. I gave that info to you incorrectly. The knob is pointing up. And then we've got the gray part, and we've got the black temperature piece in there, which will come out if you try to wiggle it out. And I'm not going to do that right now. So line everything up so you know how it goes back in. I believe you have to pull this. You can see I bought some plumber's putty, but looks like I don't really need that because this was already put in there. So now let me show you the part that we're replacing. There it is right there. You can see all the plumbing in there and the wood supports to support the pipe. And so there's a metal bracket over here held on with 4 screws. You don't have to, but when I take things apart like this, I always make sure that I put the screws back in the same slot just in case I have a problem with the threading. So you're going to remove all 4 screws. This is why you need to turn off the water, because if you don't, the minute you pull this thing out, water is going to come shooting out. And water might come running out. You might want to have a rag over there, which I don't, to catch some of the water that drips out of this thing. So I'm going to remove all 4 of these screws, and then I'm going to loosen each one first, and then I'll start unscrewing them. So let me get the camera out of the bathtub. All right. Got my footprints all over the bathtub here. That loosened very easily. Not a lot of torque or tightness on there. That loosened easily. This is the way to do it. Most people would just go in there and unscrew one at a time. But do it evenly, balance out everything. That way you can see how tight it is. And if you're going to have a problem, which it doesn't appear I will. So what I'm going to do, normally I would have a Sharpie marker, which I don't have. So I'm going to mark the top of that with a little marker so that I can put it back in the right way. Hold on to these screws. Don't do this with a screwdriver, because if it falls down there, you're making a trip to the store to get a new screw, and that's when you're really screwed. See the advantage of loosening everything first? Hold your hand down underneath on the bottom in case the screw falls. Your hand will catch it. Okay, I've got one more screw. Hold the bracket while you were taking the last screw out so that it doesn't fall. And that's the bracket we're removing. All right, let me see if I can get the camera positioned here again. I'm going to pull this thing out now. It should just come out. It should slide out. Remember, this white piece is up here. Remember how you take this thing out. It's a tight fit. It should be coming out now. I don't think it screws in, but let me look at this one here. there are no screw threads on there. It looks like it just pulls out. So I'm going to be putting it back in with the white thing positioned that way. And I believe we're going to have the top and the bottom piece like that. So let's see. A little bit of pulling. There's the water I was telling you would probably run out, and it did. Now it's all over my pants. Interesting, I want to show you this in a minute. Let me shut off the camera for a second. Now if we look at the new valve, you can see one section has these bumps up or down depending on how the system is mounted. You should have two washers in here. So you want to make sure you look at how you take the original out, if this is facing the top or the bottom, even though I was talking about that white knob. This is really going to be the critical point, I believe, because that's going to decide how this positions. And here's the old one. You can see that when I removed it, one of the washers came off and the other is probably still stuck in there, so I'm going to have to check to make sure there is no washer sitting in there, because if there is, then I'm going to end up with a massive leak. And you remember I marked, I said that this was facing the top, so that will mean that this is going to be facing the bottom. A lot of sediment came out of the valve. I cleaned up most of it, but you can see all the junk that came out over there. That all shot out when I pulled it out. And that's probably what's causing this, is sediment. Now, what they recommend, if you don't want to go spend the money and get this valve, they recommend to soak this in a solution of 50% water and 50% alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. Well, that's really good. The only problem is that when you put isopropyl alcohol on rubber, it tends to dry it out and then it cracks and then you end up with a leak. It will remove the sediment, but it can also cause you a lot of problems with leaking and ruining the fittings, and rubber is not made to have alcohol put on it. So I'm going to go look at the valve now and make sure I can find that other washer first, and then I will figure out how to reposition everything. You can see some of the corrosion and sediment is still on the tub. That's what caused most of this problem, all that dirt inside there. And you can see, you should be able to see the washer, one of the washers is still stuck in there. And if I don't remove that washer, I'm going to end up with a massive flood when I turn the water back on here. So I'm going to remove that and then get ready to put in the cartridge. And I'll screw everything together, turn on the water, make sure that I don't see any leaks, then I'll put the plate on, then I will put the handle on and close it all up. Again, make sure that this is lined up properly and this part matches how it came out. Slowly insert it. You always want to do insertions slow in your life, so do slow insertion. It has a nice fit to it. No problems there. Now I'm going to put the plate back on that I took off. It shouldn't really matter how you put it back on, but that's how I took it off, so that's how I'm going to put it back on. And then put your hand underneath in case the screw doesn't thread in properly so that you can catch it. Again, if you like these videos, do a thumbs up, a subscribe, a like. Help me out by going to the channel page. It's starting to run some water through right now. I'm going to tighten each one up just a little bit until it stops. You're definitely not going to want to tighten these very tight because this is plastic behind here. It's plastic going into metal. If you tighten it too tight, you're going to crack the plastic and then you're screwed. Okay. You can see how I'm going around each side, going back and forth like most mechanical people would do so that they don't over tighten one section and everything's balanced out. Each one of these is tightening down. Now it felt like it stopped over there. It's a nice beautiful breeze coming through the walls. It's about 85 degrees outside in sunny Los Angeles today during the July summer. That tightened about as much as it needed to. I'm going to go over here. That's tight about as much. You don't want to torque these things down. You just want to get it. You saw how easy it was for me to take it apart. Tight, 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 tight. I'm going to go shut off the camera. I'm going to go crank on the water. And I'm going to hope that... Oh, this might be on. That could be it. This might be on. I don't know. Okay, so maybe everything is fine. Yeah, maybe everything is fine. All right, so we've got the white piece up there now, and I'm going to go turn on the water, come back in here, slowly turn this on, make sure that there's no leakage. You never want to have leakage. Definitely leakage is a bad thing in life. And if everything works out good, then the project's almost finished. Always remember when you turn the water on, from the main supply, not from here, but from outside the main supply, turn it on slowly. If you turn it on really fast, you could blow your pipes out from the pressure. So turn it on slowly. If you can, open up one faucet to let some water drain and to get some of the pressure out of the system. I'm going to turn on a sink. Okay, I've got water coming in here now. So what I'm going to do, not too easy to do this with the tripod in front of me, but I'm going to try to get in here and make sure that everything is dry. I didn't do this before I put the cartridge in here, but there was water that ran around, dripped off, so it might be a little wet, but I don't feel any wetness. No wetness, no moisture. Everything is good, right? Okay, so I'm going to take the handle now. I've got my tripod in the tub. I don't want to get it wet. Wow, all these great words. Wet, moisture. So I'm going to get out of the tub. I am going to put the handle on here. There goes the screw. Remember I told you make sure the drain was covered? Well, mine wasn't, but I caught it in time. I'll put the handle on there. I'm going to turn. I've got water coming out now. And there's a reason I put these paper towels here. I ran this thing full, and I'm going to pull out the paper towels now and see if they're wet. And if they are, I've got a real big problem on my hands, because this is one time you don't want something to be wet. They are dry. They are dry. That is a good thing. It's a very good thing. So what I'm going to do now is take this handle off. For those that are interested, that's the part number 974-042. That is their factory part number. You can see it's got a limitation with how much water goes through there. Pfister of California. I've got the tub dried out, so what I'm going to do now is put everything back together. If you don't have this in there, you should put plumber's putty in there to seal everything up. All of this is under warranty. This is damage. They will cover this under warranty. But there really should be no reason why it would get damaged. But before I do that, I really should have looked at how I had this positioned. This might go in with the ring in first. So I'm going to try that to see if that's why this is not making a good seal. And if that's the reason, then I won't have to use the plumber's putty. And that's probably the reason, because you can see this little ring would turn in just enough to hold everything together. And I think that's what it is. So it'd be better if I don't have to mess with the plumber's putty. Okay, so that's what it was. That's why you want to use nail polish and mark things like I said to do that I didn't do. So that little ring wants to go in first. Tighten that down. Now it's against the wall. It's holding the way it should. Tighten it down. You want to over tighten it. Hand tight. You take your handle. I don't like this handle design. I think it's kind of wussy. But you put your handle in there, you get your screw, you insert your screw, and lightly turn so that you don't cross thread. That's always the most important thing. And don't over tighten, you don't want to break the screw head off. or you really have problems. And then you want to go and grab this little cap piece that I took off originally. Hold your hand down there, you don't want it to fall off. Push that in there. And you saw how easy that was this time, right? Remember at the beginning of the video? I had a hard time turning it. You see how easy it is now? Got a ton of other cool videos on here for guitar repairs, computers, and I'd appreciate it if you watch them. Feel free to link this to any website if you want to. And do a thumbs up, subscribe, like, and again, hit that main channel page, click the support button, and if this saved you $100 in plumber's fees, maybe you want to leave me a little thank you donation. All right, good luck with your repair. So you can wait till this dries, or you can, I don't like to put sealer all the way down on the bottom, because if there's a leak, you want it to be able to at least run out of here. If you've got this completely sealed, there might not be any room for the water to come out. I wanted to show you some of the sediment that is inside this valve, the balancer cartridge. So you can see all that white sediment. You saw the dirt that came out and was in the tub when I removed this thing from the valve. And you can see all that sediment that's in here. I don't see it on the bottom, but I see it on the top. So I'm going to try to take this thing apart and see if I can get it opened and we can see what's in there. Looks like I can pry the back off over here, so I'm not really sure how to take this apart without hurting myself. Break that tab off. You can probably take this apart without breaking it, but at this point it really doesn't matter. Let me zoom out a little bit. So you've got the back off, and I believe you can already see the dirt on my fingers, the sediment. I should have a paper towel here, but okay. So we've got the back piece. That's the area where it fits inside the valve. That's the spot where those two washers came off. So it has two washers inside, and we've got this piece. Feels slimy, but I don't feel any sediment coming off. You can see, yeah, you can see the white milky, this sounds disgusting, but you can see the white milky substance. My fingers are all slippery and gunky now. You can see it on that might be the WD-40 that I put in there. And we've got the back of this thing. There's more sediment. Let's see if this piece comes out. Okay, so now, gives you an idea. Not too bad for 20-some years, considering the water is extremely hard in there, but I don't think that would cause that much trouble. The sediment, the dirt that you saw come out of this unit and onto the tub, all of that gravelly type material, I think that is what caused the binding of the valve. And then we have this inside part over here. So that is what makes up, this is the temperature control piece over here, and the model number, and that's really about it. So that makes the inside of the valve balance cartridge. Not a lot of dirt. I think if this gunky stuff might be some of the WD-40 that I sprayed. No, because that was close, so that's not it. This is just slimy dirt, and that makes a lot of sense then. Why this would, you can see it's all over my fingers, how slippery and kind of pasty, glue type. My fingers won't slide together well, so this, I could see this causing a lot of trouble with the ease of turning the valve, and then all that gravel stuff in there, which all poured out when I took this cartridge out. That is why the valve was very difficult to turn, the handle. So the recommendation to take this thing apart and soak it in alcohol and water, that probably would work because it would remove this, but the main thing is it would remove all that garbage. Once you took the valve, this whole unit out of the valve housing and all that gravel came out with it, that would, I assume, take care of the problem. Cleaning this, yeah, you can see all that dirt in there now. Look at all of this this white stuff. It's all over the whole valve. Now that I have better lighting, you can see it all over the valve. So soaking this in alcohol would have worked, but again, like I said, soaking rubber in alcohol is probably the worst thing you can do. So try to get the valve for free. If you can't, I would just spend the 18 bucks or whatever, $27, buy the thing, do the job the right way, and be finished with it for the rest of your life. And if you want to go the cheap route, then take this thing out, dump this in a big container of alcohol and water, 50-50 mixture, or maybe a little more, and soak it and let it get all cleaned up. Put the thing back together like I showed you, and you should be good to go.